am with Christy Sakel, who is here with Village Management Services, who is our garden center specialist. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited.
I am really happy that you could host us here. We're at Garden Center 1 right now, and I have never been to either one of our centers.
Nice.
So can you tell me a little bit about both our centers and what they provide?
Both centers have tree plots and garden plots. So it's vegetable plots or the gardens, and then the tree plots have fruit trees or different kind of produce trees, but they have to be tree specific. So ultimately, each garden plot is around 200 square feet. So there's over 1,000 of them between the two garden centers, and we have a wait list. Everyone's interested, which is awesome.
I mean, that's great. Everybody does love to have a garden, especially because, our places here are smaller. They have just a small area. So, trying to grow certain types of things just is not going to happen.
Exactly.
So now what's the difference between Garden Center 1 and Garden Center 2?
First of all, Garden Center 1 was the original garden center created when Laguna Woods, I think, was even established. Mm-hmm. And after a while, I think we ended up with a lot of people who really wanted to garden. So what they did is they decided they were going to add Garden Center 2. Mm-hmm. And they actually planned it all out. What they did here is they had to come back because this was the first one and it was completely arranged differently. They were trying to make the 200 square feet for every garden. So you'll see at Garden Center 1, it's very eclectic, is how I like to say it. You're going to have corner plots and some just unusual shapes. And then they started with a shade house at one point in this particular garden center, and they took that down and they added more gardens because there was such a demand. So it was really kind of, this one to me is very eclectic, artsy, and you'll notice it's really kind of quaint. I really, really enjoy this one. The biggest difference that I point out to residents who want to be gardeners is the slant that it's on.
Right, I noticed we are on a slant right now.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and only because if we have a resident who has some mobility issues, we want to make sure that they're going to be comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. And the other one, which we'll visit in just a bit, is Garden Center 2, and that, I think you mentioned to me early on, is that it's a grid-like, so it doesn't have as many different spaces.
Yes.
Okay.
There's still some odd-shaped ones, but mostly it's very grid-like.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, perfect. So what I'd like to do is I would love to see some of the gardens that are here, and we can just sort of walk around and pick out some that,
Perfect.
I mean, some look very full and others are not. I know we're in the heat of summer here, so of course some have already, dwindled away, but nonetheless, let's go find some good ones.
Yes.
All right.
Let's go.
Let's go. So, unusual gardens or tree plots. I know you mentioned that earlier. Tell me what a tree plot is.
The tree plots are meant to grow fruit-bearing trees.
Okay.
And each 200 square foot space can hold at least 3 trees, potentially 5.
Okay.
However, one of the things that all of the tree plots need to have is dwarf trees. Dwarf or semi-dwarf. Mostly what we're looking at, or I look at when a resident brings me what tree they want, I'm going to look up the tree itself and see the root system. Because the root system is pretty much going to be as big as the canopy. Gotcha. So you want to make sure that, or I want to make sure that they're not going to end up with this beautiful tree that the roots are just going into their neighbors and then they have to take it down. Would be terrible.
And I did notice that there are some larger trees here. Are those ones that have been here for a really long time?
Yes. Okay. You're going to see there. I would love to show you. There's one avocado tree that's huge here that I'm sure has been here for 40 or more years.
Yeah. So at that point, maybe way back then, there weren't so many restrictions.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct. When they actually decided to make them 200 square feet each, that's when they had to actually do that division so that everyone would feel comfortable that they were getting that size, so that they knew how much space they had to work with.
Okay, all right. Now, when we first walked in here, there were lots of unique, different types of plots, not necessarily trees, but lots of gardens, but gardens that felt like it was your backyard.
Yes.
So what are in some of those?
Oh gosh, almost everyone does the basic fruits or vegetables. Some fruits are grown in the garden plots because, like vines, grapes, passion fruit you can grow in there. Any kind of hedge is usually in the actual garden plot. The tree plots are meant specifically for trees only. So one of the things that you'll find is we have in the tree plots, we have fig trees, we have avocado trees, some people have a peach tree, some have jujube. I think it's jujube. And gosh, I could name so many. Pomegranate, papayas. There's such a variety because we have a very diverse community.
Well, right.
So that makes it much more fun because we do have a lot of unusual plants that are used for medicinal purposes.
Oh, that's
so
true.
It's kind of fun to learn all that stuff.
Exactly. And then, we're in a region where, it's very breezy and beautiful right now, although this week's going to be hot. But some of these places do have some shade where they can grow some different kinds of things that are for shade and other things are for sun. And then I did remember we walked in through one little garden we passed that had a fountain in it. So it's like I said, it feels like their backyard.
Yes.
So people spend a lot of time here.
Yes, and if you think about it, it's the perfect place to relax.
Yeah.
Most gardeners do it because they love to see things grow, and they love to get their hands in the dirt, and it's just a relaxing place to sit. I think about any time you were a kid and you were at a park or something, right? So, yes, it actually gives them a lot of that, which is lovely.
I think it is actually therapeutic.
Yes, very.
So.
Very.
It's not bad. All right, let's take a look at that avocado tree that you mentioned.
Okay.
All right. And we're going to go to the avocado tree. All right, so we found the avocado tree that you had mentioned.
Yes.
And it is rather large. And you can certainly tell by how wide the base is.
Right.
So this is obviously something that's been here for a long time.
Yes, and I don't believe it's a dwarf or a semi-dwarf.
No, I don't
think
think
this
so either.
is just a regular avocado tree, and it's been here forever.
Yeah.
So it could be 34 years old. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
However, it's gorgeous, and every season it produces so many avocados.
Oh, that is
so
awesome.
it's fun. Yeah.
So, and I think there was a farmer's market that you had not too long ago. How did that go?
That was the Garden Center Club that did that.
Okay.
And apparently, from what I understand, they actually made like $1,700 that they donated.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the Florence Sylvester Senior Center that was the recipient.
Exactly.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, you mentioned earlier about the actual tree plots themselves, which we are now in the tree plot area. What are some restrictions with that?
Basically, nothing that is not a tree. There is a couple of trees that there's a couple of bushes that has been allowed to be planted in the tree plots because those are actually, there's one that's a lemon. It's kind of a hybrid of some sort.
Okay.
And it's technically a bush, but you can shape it like a tree.
Oh.
So my director allowed it, but they have to shape it like a tree.
Okay.
So that was actually one of these.
Oh.
And I don't know which one it is, to be honest, but this is a new gardener in this particular spot.
Okay. All right.
So.
Okay.
And then the avocado tree, all the other trees every tree has to be approved by the office, the garden center office.
Okay.
And again, like I said, I really am looking at the root system to make sure that it's not going to grow too big where we'd have to remove it because we really don't want to remove trees.
No, that would be costly and take some time and you don't want that. Yeah. Okay.
Just the environment, I really have a hard time with it sometimes.
Yeah, well, especially here on this hill, too, would be kind of a problem.
Yeah.
All right, good. So now what I'd love to do is maybe let's pick out a couple of beautiful gardens that really show a lot of flowers or vegetables or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Let's go
Thank
find
you.
them. We found Josephina's garden plot, and Christy's going to tell us all about it. So tell me, what is in her area?
So Josephina strictly does flowers, and just a couple of months ago, it was beautiful. I mean, it's still beautiful, but with all the blooms, and it was just gorgeous. This is actually 4 garden plots that 3 different gardeners are sharing the space. So actually, they're each paying for their own gardens. However, the garden area itself has not been divided. So they get along great, which is awesome. And one section does more vegetables. Josephina actually does more floral. That's pretty much everything on this side. So it just kind of depends. You'll see vines back there and back there. So a lot of what's really nice about this particular garden is that everyone gets along really well, and they take really good care of it. So Josephina has been here for years, part of the community, and she's had a garden from the beginning. So ultimately, when the policy changed in 2016, all of the gardeners who had multiple gardens, more than 2 each, they were asked to release all but 2 of each. So they could keep 2 garden plots and they could keep 2 tree plots. So she ended up with 2 garden plots here, and the other 2 gardens got released to someone else. So we were able to give someone from the wait list a garden. So they had the opportunity.
Okay.
So yeah,
right.
It's wonderful.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for showing us around the Garden Center 1, which has beautiful plots.
Yes.
But now we're going to go to Garden Center 2 to learn a little bit more about what it has, and then we'll also talk about how to get your own garden.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
So stick around. We've got more programming from Village Television coming right up.